Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great American Show. It's great to have you with us. I hope you all are having a great day. We appreciate you spending a part of your evening, night, afternoon, wherever you're joining us from, with us here on the Great America Show. Some new details coming out today from the interview that Ghislaine Maxwell did with the Department of Justice just a few weeks ago. During her 9-hour, now this reporting is from ABC News, so for them to be reporting it in favor of Donald Trump, it's probably got to be true, right? During her 9-hour of speaking with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, Ghislaine Maxwell said nothing during the interview that would be harmful to President Donald Trump, telling Blanche that Trump had never done anything in her presence that would have caused concern, according to sources familiar with what Maxwell said. Now, the Trump administration is meanwhile considering publicly releasing the transcripts from the interview from Ghislaine Maxwell, maybe going as far as releasing the audio from that interview with Maxwell. We'll have to wait and see what they decide to do there. But President Trump, I think, is being as transparent as possible, as he possibly could be right now after this whole mishap with Pam Bondi, who decided to absolutely screw the pooch. I don't think it should have gotten this bad. It wouldn't have gotten this bad had Pam Bondi handled it a little bit better. But the good news is I think we're on the right track to maybe getting things, I guess, fixed, per se. Some other good news happening in America. America's favorite pig, Howard Stern, will be departing SiriusXM after 20 years. It turns out his $100 million contract just wasn't worth paying anymore. Nobody was listening to that weirdo anymore. Nobody wanted to deal with him anymore. So it's apparent that Howard Stern's time has come and gone, just like the rest of the radical, lunatic, Marxist leftists who have tried to undermine this country, tried to undermine this administration. Good riddance to Howard Stern. I can honestly say I don't think I will miss him, and I'm sure a lot of you guys won't as well. Apple announcing today they're ready to pony up another $100 billion to appease President Trump and his America First agenda. President Trump has been on the backs of American companies, trying to squeak out any dollar they possibly can for these companies to come back and invest in America. So many of them have left over the years of Barack Hussein Obama, George W. Bush, Joe Biden. Departed to other countries for, quite honestly, slave labor. President Trump, in his fight for America First, for making America great again, bringing investments back to this country. So it is wonderful that we see it. Yesterday, we told you James Comer, House Oversight Chairman, had subpoenaed a slew of names: Hillary, Bill Clinton, Robert Mueller, Merrick Garland, Eric Holder, Loretta Lynch, among other names, to come and testify as for the handling of the Epstein cases while they were all in power. We now find out some interesting news, and we're going to take this up with our guest today in just a few moments, the great Roger Stone, a man who's been at the forefront of the Russia collusion investigation from the inception, quite honestly. We find out today Robert Mueller, who was the former FBI director, who was tapped to be special counsel to investigate President Trump and the Russia Collusion Hoax in 2016, is reportedly living at a memory care facility. The news of Mueller's mental health decline comes as Comer has subpoenaed him to show up for a deposition in early September. Paul Sperry at a Real Clear Investigations is reporting that for quite some time over the past few years, in fact, Robert Mueller has been living at an assisted care facility, possibly suffering from dementia. Now, obviously, dementia is not good for anybody, and we don't wish it upon anybody. But what we do find concerning is that Robert Mueller was special counsel. And when they hid him, by the way, they kept Robert Mueller in the basement, just as they kept Joe Biden in the basement for the 2020 campaign. But Mueller, they didn't want him to be seen, heard from, only testified once before Congress. And once he did testify, it was apparent why they were hiding him and why they wanted him nowhere in the sphere. He was slipping up. He was incoherent. Things he was saying didn't make any sense. And now it's apparent the reason that was because he was probably suffering from the early onset of dementia. So in my opinion, everything that went on in that Russia collusion investigation, that Russia collusion hoax, should somehow be overturned. Now, I don't know how you recuperate the money for people like Roger Stone, who were forced to spend hundreds of thousands and millions in some cases to defend themselves against something that didn't even exist from the inception. There was no Russia collusion. There was no Russian interference in the election in the favor of Donald Trump. Yet people were forced to spend life savings, life earnings, defending themselves against something they knew to be an absolute farce. People like Adam Schiff, who, by the way, as it sits right now, is under criminal investigation in Maryland, the great state of Maryland. You may recall just about a month ago, a story broke that Adam Schiff, who refinanced his house, I think it was 4 or 5 times over the course of a 4 or 5 year period, which those of you who are homeowners know that's a very odd and peculiar thing to do. Adam Schiff refinanced his house and also forgot to mention on his documents that his main residence is not actually in Maryland. It should be in California because he's a senator from California. But Adam Schiff, just as Tish James did, lied on his mortgage application and said that his home in Maryland was his primary residence to get a more favorable mortgage. We know that's not the case because he's a senator from California, not the senator from Maryland. So he lied, all the while throwing stones while he lived in a glass house. This is the man who was at the forefront of Donald Trump as a Russian agent. Donald Trump is a Russian stooge. And when push came to shove and it was time to show the evidence of Donald Trump being either of those things, Schiff faltered and was unable to provide evidence because we know it's not exactly true. He is indeed the one who was the Russian stooge. And it's going to be time now for Adam Schiff to start answering some questions about why he lied on a mortgage application. And I think more seriously, why he lied and leaked materials to the mainstream media and news organizations during the whole Russia collusion investigation. So it's time for Adam Schiff to be held to the same standard or a higher standard, perhaps, because he lied about so much and is a U.S. senator, but be held to that standard that he held or tried to hold everyone else to, all the while he was the one committing crimes. We're going to be right back, folks. As I said, our guest today is the great Roger Stone, host of the Stone Zone. There's so much to take up with Roger Stone. The Epstein saga continues. The Russia collusion hoax, who, as I said, Roger has been at the forefront of it from the very beginning, a longtime confidant to President Trump. Roger knows the inner workings of Donald Trump's mind, I believe, and everything Donald Trump related. But Roger was put through this blender, as were many people. You remember the FBI showing up to Roger Stone's house at 4 o'clock in the morning. Before they even got there, of course, CNN was staked out there with cameras ready to film the whole entire thing. The funny part about it all, if there is anything funny about it, is Roger's own attorneys had no idea that he was being raided. Yet somehow CNN knew. Before we take a quick break here and we come back with the great Roger Stone, I want to get to a story that absolutely amuses me. President Trump was on CNBC yesterday morning on Squawk Box and was talking about this new executive order that's going to be coming out in the next few months or weeks that'll hold banks accountable for deplatforming and censoring conservatives. So just moments after President Trump was on Squawk Box, CEO of Bank of America, Brian Moynihan, was on there, and they played the interview for him. President Trump had some not nice words to say about Mr. Moynihan. Take a listen because I think it's absolutely brilliant.
Good morning to you. I should say really good afternoon. Joining me right here in Aspen is Bank of America's CEO, Brian Moynihan. And I originally planned to talk to you about the economy, and I still do. But I have something that was not on my bingo card this morning because we talked to President Trump on Squawk Box about this executive order that he's planning around banks who he thinks discriminated against conservatives. And your name came up. And so I just wanted to show you what he said and wanted to get your reaction to that.
What happens is I call up Bank of America routinely because when I was president, this was after I got out, by the way, I call up Bank of America routinely, and I speak to him, and I speak to a couple of people, and they have zero interest. Brian was kissing my ass when I was president, and when I called him after I was president to deposit $1 billion plus and a lot of other things, more importantly to open accounts, and he said, we can't do it. No, we can't do it.
You heard it. Were you watching TV when this was happening?
Well, so I got up early because we're on East Coast time. I was working out and I was watching your wonderful show, and he came on, and I'm telling you, I'm still trying to unsee some of the visuals that he created with his commentary. But look, the president's after the right thing, which is the laws, rules, and regulations around our industry became used to cause things to happen. It's whether it's BSA, AML, whether it's KYC, whether it's reputational risk, and you heard Tim Scott quote about it. It is right to go look at these rules because at the end of the day, they are causing decisions to be made that can be looked at in retrospect and made differently. We should get these rules right. So our company, my colleague companies, the industry has been working with the Treasury administration today, in this administration, trying to figure out how to get these rules balanced so that we're not subject to this swinging back and forth in this after the fact look. So the president's on the right issue. He asked me about it in Davos. We were there. Right. He talked about it this morning, and I welcome getting this fixed. At the end of the day, we bank 70 million consumers, more small business than anybody else, 12 million small business, more middle market companies than anybody else. We bank everybody. But the reality is we want to make sure that the rules and regulations don't cause decisions to be made that then are looked at in the aftermath and dealt differently.
I love when President Trump makes these elites look like total fools. Moynihan there saying, of course we need to look at it, as he denied President Trump, as you heard him there, to deposit $1 billion in a bank account. Imagine that. I think these people should be fined into an oblivion and let them feel the pain that the regular, hardworking American, like General Michael Flynn, who was deplatformed and debanked, like Mike Lindell. I think they need to feel the same pain that these people feel because it's only fair. We're going to take a quick break here, folks. As I said, we're going to be joined by the great Roger Stone on the other side of this quick break. Stay with us. The Great America Show continues in just a moment. We'll be right back.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. You know, I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets.
I'm interrupting this commercial to do something I've never done before. Get 2 MyPillows absolutely free on orders of $100 or more. I can't do this forever, so get on board with this great sale today. Our best-selling 6-piece bath towel sets or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Our famous standard MyPillow is only $14.98. Queens, $18.98. King size, only $1 more. Body pillows, $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color. So go to MyPillow.com or call that number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And when you spend $100 or more, get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Roger, as always, a delight to talk to you. I'm just going to run down a quick list of a few things because there's a lot to talk about, and I'm going to let you choose where we start. Howard Stern, that disgusting pig, has been canceled. Apple announces today they're investing $100 billion in America. Oh, Adam Schiff's under criminal investigation. Ghislaine Maxwell reportedly told the DOJ she never witnessed Donald J. Trump engaging in any concerning behavior. Robert Mueller has dementia. He's been living in a home for quite some time. One of your good friends. You pick, Roger. Where do you want to pop off on first?
well, I guess let's start with the Russian collusion hoax. Thanks to Tulsi Gabbard, in an epic struggle with the deep state, she has now declassified several tranches of documents that prove beyond any shadow of a doubt that there was a seditious conspiracy that I think was treasonous to jam Donald Trump up on a false narrative that Russia had interfered with the U.S. elections on behalf of Donald Trump. And it appears that Attorney General Pam Bondi, based on news reports, has asked a prosecutor to begin presenting evidence to a grand jury, which is good news indeed. What's amazing to me is the way the fake news media tries to pretend that this is still conjecture or that Gabbard didn't really prove her case, which is nonsensical. These people are busted. There's no question that they're busted. The only question now is whether they will pay the appropriate price for it. The answer appears to be yes. Robert Mueller, we now know, was non-competent.
Real quick, Roger, it's not up to Tulsi Gabbard to prove the case even. So these people are a bunch of idiots. Tulsi puts out the evidence and then lets the grand jury prove the case or the courts prove the case.
Yes, but it's up to the attorney general to ask the grand jury to do so. And it now appears that Pam Bondi is going to do exactly that. So that's good news indeed. Now, because of the raid at Mar-a-Lago, which I would argue was part of a continuing conspiracy, seems to me that grand jury can be in Florida rather than the District of Columbia. Mm-hmm. David Schoen, probably the single best criminal defense lawyer in the country, certainly one of the most brilliant legal minds in the country, who will be on my radio show tonight at WABCradio.com at 8 p.m. It is his belief that would allow this matter to go to trial in Florida instead of going to trial in the District of Columbia, where every single judge is in the tank for the Democrats, and where no reasonable, unbiased jury could possibly be chosen. So that's all very good news. As far as Robert Mueller's concerned, I think it's evident that he was actually non-compos mentis at the time he served as the special counsel. Yeah. Putting him in front of the Congress was a last-ditch attempt to try to squeeze an impeachment out of the Mueller investigation. Once they learned there was no evidence of Russian collusion, they then tried to shift to the question of obstruction of justice. They didn't have a case for that either. Everybody knows that Andrew Weissman was the puppet master here. The op-ed piece in the Washington Post the day after I was pardoned, saying Stone was in contact with Russian intelligence assets with an S. Well, I wasn't even in touch with one. I was in touch with Guccifer 2.0 in a 28-word exchange on Twitter direct message, which I myself released a year and a half in advance. Not only is it innocuous, not only does it prove nothing whatsoever, there's no evidence, there's no proof that Guccifer 2.0, that persona on then Twitter, today X, is really a Russian intelligence asset. But even if he was, our brief communications took place weeks after WikiLeaks had already released all their material on Hillary Clinton and the DNC. So from a chronological point of view, that communication was benign, but they chose to target me anyway. So I guess Mueller, who should definitely be indicted along with the rest of them for seditious conspiracy and treason, at least he has a legal defense, which is that he's insane.
Yeah. Going back real quick to Tulsi Gabbard, that grand jury that they've reportedly impaneled, asking for more information. Take a
report
listen.
Tonight from the Federalist that the DOJ is actually asking you for more documents in its grand jury probe. Is that true? And what are they asking for now?
That is true, Laura, and I just want to point out how important this is, that Attorney General Pam Bondi, through the Department of Justice, is taking this necessary first step toward accountability, which is essential for the American people to begin to have any kind of trust in the integrity of our democratic republic. I met with the Department of Justice prosecutors today, and yes, they are committed to leaving no stone unturned as they conduct this grand jury investigation and find the truth. Obviously, we've already handed over the documents that we've declassified and released publicly over the last few weeks. They have more questions, and they're going to be really taking a deep dive into this again, looking everywhere to find the truth and conduct this very serious investigation.
No stone unturned. So it seems Pam Bondi may actually finally be getting serious about her job. I haven't seen her on Fox News. I haven't seen her doing any media. And lo and behold, Roger, we're getting the wheels of justice moving.
Well, and Tulsi Gabbard, I think, has been methodical and very careful and meticulous about what she's put forward. But among the most important declassified documents is email that proves that Hillary Rotten Clinton approved this operation to smear Donald Trump in order to distract from her illegal email server and to spread the false narrative that Donald Trump was assisted in the election by the Russians. Now, there's a huge effort to conflate what was a relatively minor and I think ineffective effort to sow chaos in our elections, a Facebook campaign that was budgeted less than $200,000, the messaging of which was completely incoherent. Whoever wrote this stuff clearly had English as a second language, in an election in which $8.9 billion was spent. So this is a veritable drop in the bucket. Certainly didn't change the outcome of the election at all. And sometimes the messaging was pro-Trump, other times it was anti-Trump, sometimes it was pro-Clinton, other times it was anti-Clinton. What it was ineffective. But people like Mark Warner, who is the disgrace that is a U.S. Senator from Virginia, try desperately to conflate that question with whether the Russians sought to help or assist Donald Trump in the election. Of course, there is no evidence to that effect whatsoever. So, yes, I agree with you, John. I think that Tulsi Gabbard's done a huge public service here. She's been meticulous about it. I think she has a lot more coming. There's a lot of information for them to evaluate. But it's interesting that Obama felt the need to publicly respond to try to defend himself. And he appointed to the Senate Intelligence Committee report on Russian collusion, which they keep saying is bipartisan. Technically true. There were 3 Trump-hating Republicans on the committee at that time. And I can tell you that report is a steaming pile of bullshit. There are 5 different references to me in it. Every one of them is a cut and paste from the Huffington Post. In other words, it's a collection of accusations, but it involves no evidence or no actual proof of those accusations. And that's true of the entire report.
The funny thing to me, Roger, is Russia had more dirt on Hillary Clinton than they had on Donald Trump. And if they were so in the bag for Donald Trump or Donald Trump winning, they would have come out in October, just before the election, with a surprise, just as the Access Hollywood tape somehow came out, just a few hours, metaphorically, before the election. Russia had all this information on Hillary, that she had to be given tranquilizers, that she was bipolar, that her health was absolutely horrible. All these things flawed with her. If Russia was so in bed with Donald Trump, if Russia was so in bed with Roger Stone, why wouldn't they drop this thing at the 11th hour to absolutely try to obliterate Hillary Clinton?
Yeah, you raise an excellent question. Actually, the Clinton campaign actually attacked me in a press release by name, saying that I had raised questions about Hillary Clinton's health in connection with my right-wing allies. Well, I mean, we now know that there were very serious questions about her health. Among other things, they said she had psycho-emotional problems, which is what I think happens when you have a husband who's a serial rapist and you're in charge of killing the people who could point a finger at your husband. That would tend to me to cause psycho-emotional problems. But she was heavily tranquilized. She had various other health issues. So I was right. And the Clinton campaign, of course, attacked me for it at the time. Once again, I feel completely vindicated.
I give you credit, by the way, every day on this show. You can ask any of the audience. You've been so hot on Tulsi Gabbard from long before Donald Trump chose her. I mean, it's probably part of the reason why Donald Trump chose her for a cabinet position like that. But you've been long hot on her before anyone else. I've got to ask you something, Roger. I was talking at great depth yesterday with Lou's wife, great woman, Debbie, and we were talking about Seth Rich because Fox News got sued over Seth Rich because Lou Dobbs went on air and wanted to know how Seth Rich was killed. He wasn't robbed. He was murdered in the middle of the night. Nothing was taken from him. How can we get this message to Tulsi, to Cash, to anybody in the DOJ who listens? Because if you uncover what happened with Seth Rich, you uncover this whole entire Russia collusion hoax and everything that went on inside the DNC. I think it's such an integral part that's being overlooked by so many people.
Well, as you probably know, it was in my trial that the FBI admitted that they had never inspected the computer servers of the DNC. Mm-hmm. They relied entirely on a third-party company called CrowdStrikes.
Yep.
CrowdStrikes had allegedly produced a report that supposedly showed that the DNC had been the target of an online hack by Russian intelligence. But then Sean Henry, who was the CEO of CrowdStrikes, who just happened to have been a deputy to Robert Mueller at the FBI, testified under oath to the House Intelligence Committee that his report actually included no such proof. Now, I wanted to bring Bill Binney, the former counterintelligence IT expert for the CIA, to my trial as a witness to produce not only expert testimony, but also to present forensic evidence that would have proved that there was no online hack and that due to the download times of the information that was purloined, that they had been downloaded to some kind of a portable drive and taken out the back door, most likely by Seth Rich. We clearly have a cover up here in which the FBI tells us they can't find his computers. The security camera footage from the last establishment he left before his death seems to be missing. The lawyer Ty Clevenger has fought now for years to get to the bottom of this case. But as you correctly point out, if you make any assertion about his death, his parents will immediately sue you. Now, that is a change in their position. His father initially said that he was not the target of a robbery, pointing out that his wallet, his cell phone, his jewelry, his cash was all intact. But then once the DNC hired a crisis communications spokesman for the family, they very quickly changed their tune. I'm hopeful that Kash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard will get to the bottom of this. I notice it is floating back up on social media. People are asking legitimate questions about it. But hopefully we'll get to the truth of the matter here through some of these declassified documents.
Yeah, to me, it was such a shame. I mean, I just started at Fox News and I'd come in and depositions are about to happen. And then midnight one night, I got an email that said no more depositions in the Seth Rich case, which to me said that there's a settlement made. Now, I don't know what the number was, but it was mid into the seven figures, I'd have to imagine. By the way, I just texted Ty Clevenger. I know Ty very well, a good friend of mine. He's been fighting Roger for like 5 years. Okay, the FBI had said, we have the computer, and then they said that we don't have the computer. That we have it, we don't have it. We have the contents of it, we don't have the contents of it. The FBI was ordered to turn the computer over to Ty years ago. They still haven't turned it over. What can they buy? It's got to be a lot more than just this guy taking files from the DNC and giving it to Julian Assange. There's got to be something far deeper than that they're not releasing this, in my opinion. What about you?
Well, certainly there proof exists from the material that WikiLeaks did publish that they had to rig the process against Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, of course.
A year prior to his running for the Democrat nomination, was not even a Democrat. He was an independent elected as a socialist. So they had to cheat to beat him. By the way, who won the California Democrat primary in 2016? The answer is we don't know because they've never released a vote count. That tells me that Bernie Sanders likely defeated Hillary Clinton. So I think it was much greater than just the falsity of the Russian collusion hoax. I think it was the rigging of the nomination for Hillary Clinton and a number of John Podesta's emails, which have been authenticated and which I did not have in advance of their release, are extremely suspicious, where he talks about making an example of someone. So hopefully we'll get to the bottom of this now that we have honest people as the head of the FBI and somebody honest as the director of intelligence. Hopefully we'll get to the bottom of this very soon.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Do you find it odd? This is something I can't fathom. There's very few things that boggle my mind, but when they boggle my mind, they keep boggling, Roger, and I can't get past it. Are these guys the worst criminals in history? And I'm talking about the John Brennans. These people, Roger, were literally keeping notes saying what they were going to do, what time they were going to do it, and how they were going to do it. These notes then got saved, stored in the FBI headquarters, which are now found. I mean, does that make any sense to you? If you're going to commit a crime, Roger, are you writing it down?
Well, but John, you have to admit, to date, they've gotten away with it, with the complicity of the fake news media, who's right back at it again. I mean, first of all, Tulsi Gabbard's bombshell revelations largely go uncovered by the 3 major networks trying to pretend like they never happened, not to mention CNN. So they may be stupid criminals. They may be the Keystone Cops, but they've gotten away with it so far. And, of course, John Brennan is still in denial. You can see him on MSNBC, if you're one of the very, very few people watching, and where he says, well, you know, the Steele dossier may still be true. There's no evidence of that. They very cleverly, and this was covered in the CIA's report by John Ratcliffe prior to Tulsi's disclosures. It was Brennan who insisted the Steele dossier, which he knew was fraudulent, which he knew had been created by Hillary Clinton's campaign, which he knew was a fugazi, as we say in New York, be included in the president's intelligence briefing. But then they hid it in a super classified footnote to make sure that nobody saw it. And as the journalist and investigative reporter and author Lee Smith points out, Barack Obama was waiting for it. It was used as the rationale for the FISA warrants to spy on Donald Trump's campaign, also used as the rationale for the appointment of silent Bob Mueller. Today we know why he was so silent.
Go ahead.
So, yeah, on one hand, it's amazing that they kept records of their treachery, of their seditious conspiracy. On the other hand, very clearly, after they stole the 2020 election, I think they believed that they would be in power forever. Yeah. Because we all know it would be impossible for Donald Trump to make a comeback, except for he did, just through sheer will, determination, perseverance, and by the grace of God. He made the greatest comeback in American political history, and that leaves these people vulnerable to the truth.
Absolutely. While we're on the topic of Russia, I guess we've got to mention the number one senator from Russia, and that's Adam Schiff, who is now reportedly under criminal investigation in Maryland for alleged mortgage fraud. I think he refinanced his house 4 or 5 times in the course of 4 years. I mean, very odd behavior from a man who was throwing bricks, Roger, when he was living in a tinfoil house, I guess.
Well, look, Adam Schiff is perhaps the greatest huckster, the greatest con man, the greatest congenital liar to ever serve in Congress. He was violating both the law and House rules, in cahoots with the special prosecutors, the Mueller thugs. So they shared my emails with him so that he could formulate and fabricate gotcha questions for me, none of which were material. Very clever. But in this case, his defense is that Donald Trump is upset Schiff says, because he owns two homes. No, the problem here is that he declared both his condominium in Burbank, California, and his home in suburban Maryland. He declared both of them as his principal legal residence.
Yeah.
That got him a tax break that he was not entitled to in both states, also got him a lower mortgage rate and a lower insurance rate. That is, by the way, a felony. If you or I did that, we'd be prosecuted. So he's busted. I saw that report last night. There was evidently a referral from William Pulte at the Federal Home Finance Agency, whose fraud unit discovered this illegality and referred it to the Department of Justice. Hopefully, if we don't have a two-tier justice system, Adam Schiff will be prosecuted. But I think you and I both realize his problems are much, much bigger than that. The Inspector General under Biden determined that he and his sidekick, Eric Swalwell, leaked classified information to various media outlets. That's a crime. And then plus his central role in the fabrication of the Russian collusion hoax, he's among those who should go to the grand jury. There's no immunity for U.S. senators when they are involved in seditious conspiracy or treason.
Going back to Mueller real quick, did you ever meet with Mueller personally?
No, it's very interesting because, you see, I never received a target letter. I was never called in front of the grand jury. What they chose to do was the drip, drip, drip of leaking. So every 2 or 3 days, there'd be a new story. Stone in Mueller's crosshairs. The noose tightens around Stone's neck. Stone's indictment expected any day now. But I never received any formal confirmation that I was under investigation. And then when I was pardoned, Robert Mueller and Andrew Weissman concocted this op-ed for the Washington Post. And Weissman says, Stone can still be taken in front of the grand jury. Well, you had 3 years to take me before the grand jury, but you never did. You chose this terror campaign to try to pressure me because ultimately, as you know, what they really wanted was for me to testify falsely against President Trump, which, of course, I refused to do. Robert Mueller has a very checkered past, to say the least. He is, as you know, the person who took the Iranian samples over to Russia so that the Russians could inspect them prior to their purchase of about 80% of the enriched uranium in the United States. By the way, that's according to the New York Times. So that's not exactly a right-wing news outlet. I think he's deeply involved in the cover-up of 9/11. He was the FBI director when there were reports of men in North Florida going to a flight school intently interested in how to take off a plane, but having very little interest in learning how to land one. But they only investigated after the attack on America on 9/11. And therefore, they missed an opportunity, one, I think, of several, if you listen to former Congressman Kurt Weldon, to prevent that horrific event on 9/11.
Yeah, very, very valiant points. A man with a very checkered past, I think, says the least. Absolutely horrendous. Before we wrap up, Roger, I've got to get your take on something. I sent you over something yesterday that I found was rather interesting. We're going to put it up here on the screen for the audience. It was a picture that came out of a photo inside of Jeffrey Epstein's home. And by the way, as I mentioned at the top of the show, Ghislaine Maxwell told the DOJ she did not witness anything inappropriate from Donald Trump engaging in any inappropriate activities in her time with him. And they're reportedly now looking at releasing the evidence. So I sent this to you. I thought it was Bill Gates. It's going back and forth if it's Bill Gates or Woody Allen, whoever it is, if it's Bill or Woody. Why would Jeffrey Epstein have a picture of Steve Bannon with whoever the said other is on his mantle?
Well, it's very clear, according to the New York Post, also according to former Bannon aide Sam Nunberg, that Bannon had become a fixture at Jeffrey Epstein's New York apartment, his New York home, after he was fired by Donald Trump, and that Epstein was supposed to finance Steve Bannon's various political projects. We also have the reports that Bannon was coaching Epstein in preparation for a 60 Minutes interview that ended up being canceled, but that Bannon was trying to coach Epstein on how to come across as less threatening, more friendly, and to how to deflect the questions about child sex trafficking by saying, well, some of the women I've been seen with, they may appear young, but they were all of age, which of course we now know was not true. And then, of course, there's the 15 hours of videotape that Steve Bannon recorded with Jeffrey Epstein that he has yet to release. So their relationship is very curious. We also know that Bannon visited Epstein not just in his New York home, but also visited him at his Paris apartment. So I've called on him, as have others, to release that footage and to clarify his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, look, a lot of people keep saying to me online, what's your beef with Steve Bannon? My beef is very, very clear. He went to the House Intelligence Committee. He testified under oath, as I did. He was specifically asked, did you ever discuss WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, or these allegedly stolen emails with Roger Stone? And he said, no, never. Asked by Adam Schiff on no occasion, he said, no, never. Now, he was a surprise witness for Robert Mueller and the government at my trial. He swept into the courtroom all in black, kind of like a fat Johnny Cash, and he was on the stand. He's asked the exact same question. Did you ever discuss WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, or these allegedly stolen emails with Roger Stone? He said, yes. Stone brought it up in every phone conversation we had in 2016. And then to put icing on the cake, he said, I considered Stone our access point to WikiLeaks. Now, I passed a polygraph test, actually, too, on that narrow question. It's a lie. And Steve Bannon perjured himself to help Robert Mueller try to send me to prison for 7 to 9 years. Now, John, I'm a Catholic. I'm a believer. I take seriously the part of the Bible that tells us that we should forgive those who have trespassed against us. So I have forgiven him, but I have not forgotten.
I think I figured out the whole thing as I've been thinking about it for the past few days. And I knew Steve probably as long as I know you, but I mean, I've lost all respect for him for what he did to you. I consider you a good friend, and those who do things like that to my friends are no friend of mine. What I boiled it down to, talking with someone very high in D.C., is that it's a jealousy thing. You've been a long confidant and friend of President Trump for a very, very long time. You've had his ear for a very long time, and you still do. Steve was kicked out of the White House like a dog by him. So I think I see where the issue is. To me, it boils down to a jealousy thing. Do you think Steve works for a higher power?
I think Steve works for money, and I think he's desperate to find money. I think that's what he was looking for with Jeffrey Epstein. What I really don't understand is the total lack of hygiene. That part really vexes me. I mean, I don't understand his aversion to hot water and soap. It just doesn't make much sense.
But by higher power, I meant, do you believe he works for CIA, FBI? Is he an informant? I mean, I've been told that by many people. I don't know. So
I don't know either.
Roger Stone, always a pleasure. Who's your guest tonight on the Stone Zone? What time and where?
David Schoen, the criminal defense lawyer who defended President Donald Trump, is going to talk about whether there are circumstances under which Barack Obama can be prosecuted. And there's another important question, John. You may remember that President Trump brought a civil suit in Miami, laying out the entire Russian collusion hoax. A Clinton judge by the name of Middleton not only threw out the lawsuit, but he fined Donald Trump and his lawyer, Alina Habba, $1 million apiece, saying that the lawsuit was frivolous. What happens to that lawsuit now that everything in the suit has been proven to be absolutely true? We're going to focus on that question tonight. Folks can tune in by going to WABCRadio.com at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. That's WABCRadio.com tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And go by the Stone Zone, stonezone.com. I have a new piece put up that I just finished about why I believe that Barack Obama can be prosecuted for seditious conspiracy and treason in the Russian collusion hoax.
Let's get you out of here, Roger. I got Enrique yelling at me on the phone that you've got to go. TheStoneZone.com. You catch Roger tonight, 8 p.m. Roger, we'll see you next week, my friend.
Thanks, John. God bless you.
Thanks to Roger Stone, folks, and thank you all for being with us today here on The Great America Show. We hope we'll see you back here tomorrow for The Great America Show, where our quest for truth, justice, and the American way continues. We'll meet you back here, same time, same place. Till then, may God bless you, may God bless America, and may God bless the great Lou Dobbs. Have a great night, everybody.